Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to Money in the Law, My FM 101.3, and along with Hollison Cable Access TV, or HCAT. That's the logo.
That's right.
You're here with your host, Jay Marsden from the Marsden Law Group, and I'm John Drohan from Main Effort Financial, and you're back once again watching and listening to
Yes, you are.
Money and the Law, which is, of course, the show where we talk about all things money, all things law, and we break it down in such a way where people who are, we're not saying that you're challenged, but maybe your attention span is challenged for things like this. We kind of we open it up for you. We kind of widen the lane for you so you can
break it down to its simplest form.
Yeah,
right?
and then you know what we do? We sugarcoat it. We put some sprinkles on it. We put some color in there. We put some
sugarcoat
some pizzazz.
But there's some tough love moments in there. We sugarcoat it, but there's some tough love moments.
But that's what sugarcoating does, right? There's tough love, but but we make it where it applies to like everything that you're gonna have to do and say at some point in time in your life.
And you'll feel no legal or monetary shame for listening to the show.
Exactly.
Absolutely right.
Exactly.
Right.
That's
the takeaway.
There's no shame. There's no shame in the show.
No,
right?
No,
yeah.
No. We are shameless.
Everybody's kimono is wide open.
Can we say that on the radio?
I think we can.
For those of you watching at home, we're not wearing kimonos. You see that in HCAT. Right. The kimonos are in the cleaners. That's right.
We just have our button-down shirts.
That's right.
That's all we're wearing today is button-down shirts.
That's exactly right.
All right, so how are you doing today? Oh, wait. You know who's sitting here with us?
Oh, I do.
Yeah, the one and only Tom Harmon.
Tom, that's right. That's right. Yeah, he's getting after it.
He's here. Of course, Tom, he's supporting Titleist today, not a sponsor. Although we could
be a sponsor of him.
We could do a golf. That's right.
From the word about town,
when he's playing in his next Pro-Am tournament,
yes,
right?
That's right.
So Tom's here. He is our Hollison Cable Access.
When you and I are racing next year, when My FM has their tournament, and we're racing, I'm going to cozy Tom right now for our foursome. Me, you, Tom.
That's right.
And who else? Who cares?
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter who else. Doesn't matter who else.
Tom,
so right now,
we're on the green
and two. On record right now.
Right, that's
we're
playing.
Our move next year.
We're playing. That's
He's in the golf tournament.
Us three plus a fourth.
McCall, if you hear that, we're coming for you.
That's right.
We're coming for you.
We challenge right now. This is on-air challenge. Yep. Everybody else is going to be competing for second.
Yep. That's absolutely right.
My handicap is like 46.
Yep. I'm a solid 36.
Right.
Solid
so 36. Here we go. That's right.
And those two numbers are what every guy who's as accomplished at golf wants to hear.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm carrying these two jamokes for the next
who are good for 2
holes.
drives each.
That's right. So he's thinking to himself, they better bring great booze and they better bring great cigars. Because otherwise, I am not showing up. I'm not even getting out of the cart.
So that's our 4 drives, right?
Yep.
And then Tom's got us on the green.
And then he's just a surging around the greens. I mean, it's just all day,
on the green
day.
and 2. Oh.
2 guys who contribute the least amount to the win, celebrating it like they were single-handedly responsible for getting it to the finish line.
And I'll be talking to everybody walking in and out of like the clubhouse at the end.
All day, every day. Hey, watch out for my trophy. Watch out.
Sorry, have you ever...
Careful, out of the way.
Have you heard our rendition of We Are the Champions? I'm about to sing it to you right now. I paid my dues. Yeah,
that's right.
All day.
All right.
All day.
Hear it now. Right, take notes, McCall. It's coming.
That's right, McCall. Right. So put our names on the trophy right now.
Like usually when you call me about this tournament, I duck your calls like it's nobody's business.
Not anymore.
Not next year.
Not anymore.
Not next year. That's right.
I mean, you better be all you're cracked up to be, right?
If he quits, we're screwed. So
but here's the thing. So not long ago, and I think I told Tom this story. So not long ago, my high school did their annual golf tournament, right? So I get a text. So there's 6 guys that I'm friends. There's 6 of us, right? Yeah. And of those 6, 2 of them are ringers, right? Yep. 2 of them are. So every year they're on one of our. They're part of the foursome. And every year we're in it, and we've won it twice, right? Because of my extremely high handicap, right? But also because these 2 guys gets us on the green and 2. Both of those guys are out, right? So we have me, my friend Camille, who's a wonderful guy, not a good golfer, and Dave Cabiello, who's pretty good golfer, but not that good, not good at all, but he's okay, right?
Right.
And then Cabiello says, hey, I got a surprise 4th. It's going to be the best. You're going to be so psyched. Sure enough, the year before me, our quarterback, Jay Gunsey, The one and only Jay Gunsey. And Jay Gunsey was legendary.
Right.
And I hadn't seen him in probably like 10 years.
Sure.
This legendary guy. All the girls loved him, and he was a great athlete.
Shows up, weighs $4 bills.
And he was the quarterback. He shows up. No, he's like everybody. He's gained a little weight, but he's not like, he's still in good shape. He's an airline pilot. He's that guy, right?
Yeah.
Super nice guy, super good dad, great coach. Like, you get all this, like, right?
Checking all the boxes.
And I'm like, here we go. And I'm like rubbing my hands together, like I'm tasting victory already. Gunsey gets up. He's on the first tee. He hits a ball directly, like at a 90-degree angle to the left, like 5-hopper, and it almost hits a cart. And I'm like, what was that? And I look at Capiello. I look at Camille. I'm like, what? And sure enough, he's the worst of the bunch. I'm saying, I'm sorry, Jay.
With love, sure.
He killed us, and we had a tough day. So, if I see that next year, let me tell you what, right? You better show up. That's all I'm saying.
It'd be as advertised.
Exactly. You wear a Titleist hat to here. You better be showing up.
All right.
All right. What are we talking about today?
I get a couple things. You have anything on your mind?
No. I want to talk about. I want to talk about the law today.
All right. So I gave a presentation yesterday, a Zoom video conference, and the presentation was about basically something that we talk about on this show quite a bit, but it was a little ourselves, which is great, my favorite topic. But it was about planning for parents, right? Trying to sit down and figure out how things are going with mom and dad, and kind of what that journey looks like, and what the challenges that people face. But the presentation was also accompanied. There was a co-presenter, and the co-presenter was somebody from a larger Boston hospital. Most people probably know. I won't drop any names about it. But, somebody who's in the business from a clinical perspective. And at the end of the meeting, we were talking about the presentations, and we were kind of complimenting each other on our mastery of the material.
You're a very good speaker. You're a very good Zoom presenter.
That's right. But the first thing I said was, from a legal perspective, it's always helpful for me to hear from the clinical side what people think about from that perspective, because they're so intertwined, right? Mm-hmm. We do the legal work, we talk about the documentation, we talk about this, and then the other side of it is, well, this is what we worry about as clinicians, and it's refreshing to do these presentations from time to time with, again, there was no coordination on the presentations, we didn't share notes, we didn't share slides, but at the end of the presentation, again, this very compelling argument as to how you build this plan from both sides of the model, right? The legal piece of the model and the clinical piece of the model, and the challenges that you're going to have to deal with on both sides, because they don't just happen independent of one another. They completely get entangled when you're dealing with taking care of, planning for, going through these challenges of planning for mom and dad as they age and as they kind of move through the care continuum.
Well, you think about it, right? You think about, and you heard it from the money side of us. As my old man used to say, it's only money, right? Yep. And it's certainly not the most important thing. It's certainly not what's going to make you happy. I mean, I tell, no. I mean, it'll give you the more money you have, you have more opportunities, and the more things that you'll be able to do.
The money doesn't make you happy. Nope. You can do things with it that make you happy, but the money might not.
That's
make
right.
You happy.
So when you come at it like that, right? The first thing people always they talk about is your most valuable thing is your health, right? So this is in your example, in your case, it's like people's health. It's just naturally declining because they're getting older, right?
Yep.
So the clinical part is always going to be like kind of that. Well, what we're going to want what's best for your health, and everybody would want that. Everybody wants like what's like you want to be the most comfortable. You want to be be in the best position health wise. But then again, you may say, oh yeah, we definitely want to be here, but are we going to be able to do that financially? Are we going to be able to set that up and get ourselves in a position where if or when we get into that place where we're going to need that extra care, we're going to need that next level, are we going to be able to do it? And I can't agree with you more how those intertwine, and talking about them now versus when it's like you have to make a decision right away is so hard.
And not oddly enough, but interestingly enough, another part of that clinical piece was taking care of yourself as the caregiver. I mean, this is something that comes up all the time. We have specific planning designed around when somebody gets a diagnosis of Parkinson's, somebody gets a diagnosis of MS, somebody gets these things, and somebody is going to slide into that primary caregiver role. That could be a spouse, that could be a child, that could be a couple of children, and then they're going to talk about, well, we got to take care of this person, right? The person who's got the diagnosis, but then we got to take care of you, right? Because you're the foundation that this plan is built around. And if we don't take care of you,
you're going to do
the whole thing falls apart, and you're going to do a lot of work.
Yep.
And so you need to take care of yourself. And so it was, we could talk about the documents, and we could talk about the powers of attorney and the healthcare proxy, and we did, and we always will.
Thrilling, but and you make it thrilling. You make it thrilling.
But the other part of that was, and what about the care? Where does this care plan go? What happens? And we think there's a real continuity to how this care goes. And this was, and I remember this distinctly, when I was at Fidelity for 17 years, I worked with clients, I worked with high net worth clients, I worked with people who had crazy, crazy money. And then when I left Fidelity and I went to actually be a lawyer, to go put my law degree to work, the hardest part of the planning for me to understand at that time was this care continuum piece. What happens? How do we take care of our loved one? How do we take care of this person who has some health event? And taking people through that journey, hearing it over and over again, is finally what cements the deal. And I had a very good colleague who I worked with at a law firm that I went to work at after Fidelity, and he sat me down one day, and he was a nurse, and he says, look, I'm going to walk you through it right now. I'm going to tell you exactly what this journey looks like. And then the light bulb finally went off, and I said, that makes perfect sense. And that's what we talked about at our presentation yesterday, was this idea of what does that journey look like? And I say it because, as you mentioned, we're all moving in one direction, right? So how do we figure this out? How do we build this in there?
Most of us are. And then
we're staying. We're running in place.
So join us on this journey. We're going to take a quick break. So we're going to continue this journey talking about the healthcare and the legal care and how those are intertwined and how they work together, and how when they do work together, it makes for an exponentially better plan. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
We'll be right back. And we're back. Money in the Law on MyFM 101.3. Jay Marsden with the Marsden Law Group.
You said the word.
John
you can't say the Y word.
Financial.
You can't say it.
Financial, right? Yeah.
That's me.
We were talking during the break. Tom said, you're really building me up. And we said, Tom, well, you get to live it now. So I think he's...
You can't say this word.
All right, don't say it. All right, don't say it.
You can't say it. Don't say the Y word.
It's fine.
Right?
It's fine. It's a year from now. But
he's going to practice, right?
He's gonna
when he's going to play, he's going to practice. He's going to develop some bad habits.
He'll just blow his shoulder out, practicing too much, getting ready for it.
Well, if he's injured, it's one thing. I just don't want him to get any bad habits, right?
That's right. He's a good time. He's a pro. I'm not worried about it.
Well, that's what we're counting on, right?
Not worried about it. Yeah.
That's what we're counting.
No, he's the only we got.
Closest to
the pin. It's not me and you. It's not me and you.
I mean, I want to win it all. I want to win everything. Longest drive, closest to the pin.
I want to back the car. Yep, I want to back the car.
Tom, have you ever gotten a hole in one? No hole in one.
No.
This is it. This is it.
This
right?
is the year. Right
Save
here.
it for the car.
Yep.
Save it for the car. Yep. Win the new Jeep Grand Cherokee.
I have a friend who won a car.
So do I. So do I.
Yeah.
From my group.
There you go.
And I was there.
Nice.
I mean, I'd show you the video, but it's like after we missed the show. It was just a jumping around.
Yeah. This guy. Like, talking about winning everything. Hole in one with the car, and then he walks off with a new set of clubs at the raffle.
Yeah,
crazy
that
stuff.
guy. Yeah,
like all the plans.
You know what that guy needs to do? He needs to not drive home because something's going to happen.
He needs to get a scratch ticket. Is what he needs to do. Go pick some numbers.
But that was the thing. Like, so Paul Myatt, one of my closest friends, like my lifelong friend. I'm there. He hits, and it was like, and you know, it's par 3, right? You know, win a Jeep, and it's a Jeep too, right? Yeah. So, and it's like we're like. And then he hits it, and everyone's like, well, that's good. That's close. And you could see it, right? And then like, whoa. And then the guy who's the spotter, right? Because they have a spotter there. And he's like, he stands up. And when he stands up, we look at him, and he's like, And sure enough, the people on the other like, jumped out, right? So I'm like, oh, my God. We all celebrate. And I'm like, we don't need this golf cart. We're taking the Jeep the rest of the way, right? It was like the 4th hole.
Yep.
And you know what he ends up doing? And again, I want to say this on camera. You know what he ends up doing? He ends up like never taking the car. Like the guy like cut a deal with him. Like he got it and sold it. And I'm like, if I won a Jeep, you'd
be driving that at my funeral.
It would die in my front yard and it would stay unblocked. I would never.
Yeah.
I couldn't.
Yeah.
How could you sell that car?
I know.
Ever.
Yeah.
And he did.
I know.
Probably because he's probably going to win another one.
Yeah, well, you know.
Just like me and you, Tommy. Yeah. Yeah, it's happening. All right.
It's a year off. Settle down.
Yeah.
Settle down.
As long as we don't get the
That's right.
those.
Don't.
Yeah. Don't
Close
say
it.
it.
Close it.
Don't even read it.
Close it down. Close it down. So prior to the break, we were talking about the care continuum. And like I said, we did a presentation. We had done a presentation this week for a bunch of folks, and we're talking about kind of how to wrap that together. And
I'm fascinated about the clinical piece and like kind of how, what you learned on that. Because you've done this more than once, right?
This is our first rodeo.
Yep.
We've done this. But the idea, and the reason I think seeing the whole thing in front of you, the reason I think it's important is because when you are locked in some type of situation with a loved one, right? Mom or dad, for example. Mom's got a dementia diagnosis, for example, right? It's a terrible situation like that. You can't see more than 5 feet in front of you, right?
Yeah, you got short targets.
That's right. You are so busy living in this moment, right? And we see this planning, and we get pulled into the planning at all different stages of the planning. So we see it from a super macro level, and I kind of operate in the way that I need to see all the pieces first before I'm able to break them down into their sort of more manageable parts. And so with this type of planning, for anybody who thinks that this is something that's out in the future, and it could be there for all of us. I mean, sometimes it's not an if, it's a when. But for this type of planning, this is my takeaway. This is my, we joke about the show being about, standing around at a barbecue all the time. This is the barbecue conversation. This is standing around the keg and somebody goes, let me just tell you what's going on with my parents. This is what's going on with my loved one. This is what's going on with my brother, my sister. Right. Help me out.
And there's a guy who he used to operate. They wrote about him in a really, really old book where he would say, "Come here, young disciples. I'm about to tell you guys something. You guys all might want to take notes on
Gather
this."
around, all 12 of you, 6 and 6. Figure it out. Right?
Bring your friends. Bring your friends. We got food.
That's fine.
We got chow.
If we don't, I'll make more. It's no big deal.
We got chow. But this, what I'm about
wine, we're out of wine. I can make more of that. Hold on.
What I'm about to say, you might want to remember. Here we go.
If you're going to write something down, write this down, right? So this is how this journey works. And it's important to understand the journey. Not because I'm saying it. It's important to understand the journey because we tell people all the time, you want to think one move ahead. You want to see where this goes, right? So if you're struggling or if you're beginning this journey, this is how this plays out, right? Just so you know. And sometimes it helps to know how it plays out because then you don't feel like that short-term window that you're in right now is the only option.
Yeah.
Okay, this is kind of how this plays out. So take you and I for example, right? For the most part, get your act together. You go to work every day. You live your life. You work. You play. You go out with your family. You spend time with your wife. You go to dinner. You go on vacations. You live in an independent life, right? And that goes on for as long as it goes on, right? And we can all talk about knowing people who are 95 years old and get up every day and spend 2 hours at the gym and they go everywhere and they're sharp as a tack and they are in command of their faculties and they got it all going on. And that's an option for some people, right?
Well, that's a lucky situation.
Absolutely
for some people, but not many. Right?
No, and we'll put aside did they do things 20 years ago that made them get that way? I mean, some of it's just genes, some of it's luck meets timing meets opportunity, whatever it is, right?
Some of it's hard work, right?
Yeah, but some of it's no work. Some of it's no work.
Some of it's no work, right? Right? You're like the guy who I smoked 2 packs a day, and he's like 98 years old, right?
Yeah.
And he's still and he walks everywhere. He still drives. And you're like, how are you not dead?
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So just put aside that piece of it. But for those, that the journey begins with how far into the journey do we get, right? Without needing any assistance, without needing any help, right? You just maybe you cut your own lawn, maybe you don't do that anymore. Maybe you shovel your own driveway, maybe you don't do that anymore. But for the most part, your day-to-day, what people would define as the activities of daily living, those are just fine for you, right?
Yeah.
You're scale of 1 to 10, you're in the 8, 7 area. You're doing it.
You're taking care of yourself.
That's right. Not a big deal, right? You don't need help. You can drive, all that stuff. Well, at some point, you start to lose your fastball a little bit, right? That's just human nature. It's nature. It's what happens. So at some point, there's potentially a need for some help. I don't know what triggers that. It's obviously some type of decline, whether it's a mental decline, whether it's a physical decline, or it's some triggering health event. I don't know what it was. But at some point, that starts to not become workable anymore. I can't drive like I used to drive. You hear it all the time. I can't drive at night. I'm losing some of my hand-eye coordination's changing.
My depth perception. Right,
depth perception, peripheral vision, my cognitive lapses.
Wait a minute. All of these sentences you just like said. I may have experienced some of this. Yeah. Should I be driving at night? Thank God we're taping this in the day. Yeah.
Well, this actually is this. If we were at a barbecue having this conversation, this will track my physical transformation at this barbecue, depending on how many cocktails we have. But this,
right.
It's the same journey.
Honey, when are we leaving?
It's just like time lapse into 3 hours, right? So I'm going to take 30 hours of physical decline, and I'm going to squeeze it into about a 2.5 hour conversation at your backyard.
There we are.
Right? So, but that's what happens. And so when that happens,
and you need help.
I need help.
At that point,
That's right.
Your activities. I mean, hopefully your activities, like all of them, don't go.
Not all of them.
Because if all of them go, then
you stop getting invited places. Then you stop getting invited places.
Absolutely. And you're definitely not, they don't bring you inside, that's for sure.
That's right. No. They definitely keep you, you're not even on the deck. They don't even want you on the deck. You're
Uncle
on the yard.
Uncle Jay needs to stay outside.
On that gravelly area over there.
Out of the hot tub.
That we specifically built for him. A gravelly area right there. Keep them in that area.
No, it's grass. It's lawn.
That's right. You get rocks.
It's turf.
So that's what happens. At some point you say, look, you know what? This is, we need some help. We need to have somebody come in and help our loved one out. And it could be just a couple of hours in the morning. It could be a couple of hours during the night. And this is where you're starting to consider, do we need, well, first of all, you could be the person providing this care.
Well, that's just it, right? We've talked about this before.
Yes, we have.
So as when you get to this point, and again, part of this, you can make the argument is that, by the grace of God, you've reached this point. Hopefully, you're not at at a weird young age, right? But it's because you've gotten older, right?
That's
and it's because you're not dead, right? And we say this all the time. You complain about being old. Well, the opposite is you're dead. So you're older and you get to this point, and with luck, well, I'm with luck, but most of the time, this doesn't happen overnight, right? Unless
in many cases, it's family, right? Like all of a sudden, you're checking in on mom and dad a little bit more, if it's mom and dad, right? You're checking in on them a little bit more because, everything. To your point, they're getting a little older, and they just need some more help at stuff.
And that planning is kind of already started. And maybe the planning is, hey, you need to swing by mom. Or maybe it's, you need to call mom every day. And then it just kind of evolves into more care until we get to that point to what you're talking about. Well, now it's like, we can't do it all. Like we can't provide what she needs and still live our lives and work and do the things that we need to do.
And let's all agree. You're not saying I'm not willing to do it, right? That's and the reason I say that is because people do feel guilty. Right? They say, look, I'm going to go over and check on mom, and we work on a schedule. You're going to go see dad. You're going to call mom. You're going to check, you're going to make sure they have food. You're going to make sure laundry's getting done. You're going to make sure the house is clean. You make sure mom and dad are eating. As they start to go through some of these physical challenges, you guys are the first level of family members are the first level of making sure that they're safe and that things are working out okay. But to your point, you can't do it all.
Yeah.
And the reason that's important is don't feel guilty. People feel racked with guilt all the time when they have to start thinking about delegating some of these tasks to people who are not family.
Well,
and you can't do it all.
The other side of this is whether or not you're delegating the tasks or not. You are again, like you said, this is your number one priority.
That's right.
You're not. It's not like you're detaching from this thing.
No.
I mean, now maybe if you live somewhere else, like if you live on the other side of the country or something like that, then that might be different, right?
You know what? It doesn't even have to be the other side of the country. You could just be an hour and a half away.
Yeah.
Right? Which in New England isn't that big a deal, right? Your mother lives an hour away, your mother lives an hour and a half away. It's like, well, getting there isn't that easy.
I can do it.
Your parents live on the Cape.
Yep.
They live on the Outer Cape. It gets to be. It's not like you can just pop in and swing by.
Not on a work day. Not if you got games and kids and stuff.
And not everybody lives 2 doors down from everybody like they did 50 years ago,
like
where it's
like,
in
Charlestown.
That's right. That's right. So this becomes an issue, right? So first of all, don't feel guilty. All right, important. Don't feel guilty. You have a lot of number one priorities in your life. Taking care of your parents, taking care of your kids, taking care of your family, taking care of your work.
Taking care of your short game.
That's right. Those are things you have to do, right? So focus on that as well. So try to build some integration here. You do what you can do is the answer, right? But at some point, you may get to a situation where you say, look, we have to start bringing some other people. We have to delegate some of these roles and responsibilities. We got to kind of formalize this a little bit. This catch-as-catch plan isn't working. We need to do something. And that's when you start to introduce the idea of bringing in some help into the situation. You bring some home health aides in. Maybe there's some companion services that need to come in. But this is just having another set of eyes on what's going on, which could be beneficial because they don't come at it from the same emotional not baggage, but the same emotional place that you come from.
Yeah.
They can come in and make a very objective, very clinical assessment that says, you know what, we can do this, and this is what's going to work, or you're trying to square peg round hole this thing. We may have moved past this, but we're talking about a journey. We're talking about the care continuum. So this is about saying, look, we've done as much as we can do on our own as a family or as friends and family. Now we need to bring some folks in to kind of help us steer the ship a little bit.
Yeah, and that brings up you bring up a really good point, because you think about it, like, and you've probably seen this, countless times in your practice where, there's that dynamic between, like, say, the mother and daughter or the father and son, right? So there's a lifetime of relationship that's there, and for both parties, right? So how many times have you been frustrated with your adult parents, right? Or how many times has your parents been frustrated with the adult you, when you're like, hey, quit telling me what to do? And so you can only imagine that as you enter this next phase of your life, how much more frustrating it is, because, like you said, for as long as I've known, I've been able to take care of myself, and now I can't. And maybe I'm cognitively, I recognize that and I realize that, and I'm like, and how frustrating that is, and how emotional that is just for the person, right? So if you have somebody, and again, someone who comes in, an outsider, like that objective third party, if they're good, right? If they're good,
sure,
they can kind of diffuse a lot of that stuff, because they can make the hard decisions, right? They can say, look, hey, guess what? You're not sleeping upstairs anymore. Like, this is, and here are the
these
reasons.
These stairs don't work, and here are the solutions.
Right. As opposed to if I say it, right? If I say it to my mother, I'm like, hey, you're not sleeping upstairs anymore. It's like, of course I can. There's always going to be kind of that pushback because of our relationship, right?
Well, and if it's your parents, they're still your parents.
Exactly.
Right? There's a respect factor. It's like very hard to all of a sudden change that dynamic and turn that on its head and all of a sudden be the decision maker when they've always been the decision maker your whole life. So it's hard to manage that a little bit.
Especially for themselves, right? They're making decisions for themselves, right?
Yeah. So the idea is you're potentially at the point where you say, look, we need to bring some help and we need to bring some care in. We need to just bring some other people in. Now, remember, the loved one that you're working with, if it's mom and dad, they may not want strangers in their house, right? So you have to start having this conversation. And by the way, this is a great conversation to have now. Well, you don't need to have it.
We've said it before, right? We've said it how many times?
Have it now. If something happens, share the journey with mom and dad and say, look, I think this is potentially where this goes. So how are we going to handle this at every step in the way? We'll do everything we can, but at some point we might not be able to do that. What's the next step? And if you share this with them, it takes away some of the fright and the uncertainty as to where does this thing go, right?
And the surprise of it, right? Like, because you're just you can talk about it till, just like anything, right? It's like when people say when you have a kid, like people say, oh, let me tell you what it's like when you have your kid, right? And you don't know, it doesn't matter what they say, but you know it when your child is born.
Yep.
So there's the same thing, right? Or a same kind of feeling where it's like, yeah, let's talk about, so when I can't drive anymore and I can't, take care of myself anymore, and then, we could talk about, well, I can do it, but then when it happens, it's still going to be like this really scary, this really like humongous change in your life.
Well, and obviously your answer at that point can be, look, I hope it never happens.
Yep.
I hope you drive yourself to your own funeral. That's the game plan, right? But it might not happen. And if it doesn't happen...
That would be weird if that was planned,
happen,
right? Yeah.
How do you want it handled? We need to get an idea. You live in the city, you call an Uber, you call a taxi. You live on the burbs, not so much. So now we have to potentially make those arrangements so that you have a degree of independence. And what's that going to look like? And do we have the finances for something like that? So we're talking about, home, everything's great, everything works. At some point, there may be a need that you as family come in to help out, and you're picking up some of the slack, if you will. And then at some point, that doesn't work anymore, so we need to bring in some potential outside assistance. We need to delegate some of these jobs and some of these responsibilities. Now, a case manager that you bring in to kind of oversee this whole thing for you, they can help out with that. They can help you coordinate a lot of this. They could be that objective third party that you were just talking about that doesn't have a skin in the game, that just says, look, you're asking me what I think you should do. Here's what I think you should do. I've seen this. And that might be able to help kind of move the project along. But at this point, this is really just about being home, getting some help, whether it's family help or outside assistance. But unfortunately, go ahead.
What were you going to say?
Unfortunately, that may not get the job done.
Right.
Depending on how the journey goes, it could stop there. It absolutely could stop there, right? And then at some point, something happens and something tragic happens. But this is nature and this is the journey we're all on. But at some point, it may not stop there, and there may be a need to move to sort of the next kind of iteration of this plan. So the idea is you've done as much as you could do inside somebody's home with outside services, with the family pulling the rope in the same direction. But at some point, somebody's care needs just get too great. Somebody has a case of dementia, and it gets to the point where they're a wandering risk.
There's a safety issue.
That's right. That's right. They shouldn't be using the stove. They don't know how to do a lot of things. At some point,
they shouldn't be shooting on the firing range.
That's right. That's right. Put the guns away.
Yep.
That's right. That's right. Change the combination to the lockbox. But this next move is it's not working at home anymore.
So what I'm interested in, again, kind of not. I'm sorry that I missed your thing yesterday. Is I'm interested is kind of when is the legal piece, like kind of the legal aspect, like how is when is that like kind of transitioned in, or how is that interwoven into this, and kind of when you're in this stage, right, when you're in this, when you're kind of making this clinical plan, and you're kind of where's the overlay for the estate for the legal piece, and I'm teasing this because we have to take a quick break. So when we come back
from the break,
I'd like to get get that aspect of it and how that intertwines. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Money in the Law, My FM 101.3. HCAT. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Got it. And we're back. Money in the Law, My FM 101.3. Jay Marsden with the Marsden Law Group. John Drohan. Main Effort Financial. Tom, we're talking a little during the break. Wolf of Wall Street. That's a whole nother. We could dedicate a whole show to that. That's a different animal. We could.
That's the podcast.
We could. That could be the podcast. Could be the podcast. So we're talking about the care continuum today. And right before the break, my colleague said to me, how does the legal piece of what we're talking about, because right now we've been sort of focused on the care piece of it, how does the legal piece pull into this? And the answer is the legal piece for this part of it is where we get the phone call from a client's family member or from somebody who wants to be a client, who's dealing with this with their family member, and they say, Jay, how do I do all this? How do I use my healthcare proxy to make these plans and how do I use my power of attorney to find a way to use mom and dad's money to pay for these services? And it's funny that you said that, because we had it over the course of the last couple of weeks, and it feeds into what we're talking about right now. For some reason, we had like a kind of a run of phone calls from people who had called us and said, I need some help. We have this issue going on with with a loved one, and so we said, okay. And the first thing we always ask is, do we have healthcare proxies? Do we have powers of attorney? Do we have these documents in place? And the answer was, yeah, they had done that part of their planning.
Yeah.
But they didn't know how to use the tools, right?
And you know what? That's
not unusual.
I don't know how to use it.
No.
Like, I mean, if I have to put this in operation, I mean, this is what we do this. But if you're not used to doing it all the time, right? Of course, I'm going to check with my lawyer. I'm going to say, all right, I think I know how this goes, right? But unless this is something that you're used to or you have experience in, you don't know, and nor should you know.
No,
right?
I mean, think about it, right? If you're not a carpenter, you get friends, right? People who don't know which end of a paintbrush to grab, right? You hand them tools and say, hey, I need you to go do that. They look at you like you get 10 heads and you're speaking a foreign language.
And they can take a shot at it, right? But it may not come out the way you want it to.
Do I want to stand on that deck? Maybe not, right? Maybe not. This is the exact same scenario.
You're not allowed on the deck.
You're giving people a bunch of tools, and then you're saying to them, go use them. and they don't know how to use them.
Yep.
Why? Not that they couldn't be instructed, not that they couldn't be guided on how to use them. They've just never used them.
Right.
And they certainly could try to kind of
You could YouTube it.
start it on their own. You
Yeah.
can YouTube some of this stuff. But, does it help to have a steady hand standing right behind you who can say, look,
practiced hand.
here's,
I like
here's
that,
a
yeah.
practiced hand, right? Here's how here's how you can use this tool. Here's how you can use this tool. Put the hammer down. You need a screwdriver so we can fix this problem. We're definitely going to use this hammer.
Yep.
We're just not going to use it here. This is one of the things that on this care continuum, this coordinated approach to your planning, this is where it comes in, right? I'm going to tell a client, use your healthcare proxy, use your authority under your HIPAA authorization form to find out what's going on, talk to the healthcare providers, coordinate the care, use your power of attorney to hire a case manager, to spend some money, to take care of somebody. That's how those documents are going to be used. We're not talking using a will. We're not talking about a trust. Maybe it comes in a little bit. Where's the money? Is it in a trust? Do I have access to it as the trustee?
Yeah.
How do I get myself moved up as trustee? We'll talk about the legalities of that. But right now, we're in sort of all about kind of hands-on, take care of somebody mode. And we've realized it ain't working at the house.
But think about how important that is, right? Think about how important. So, we talked about, of course, the clinical piece, the care part, the health part of it is the most important thing, right? That's we want to make sure that our loved one is in the best possible situation from a health perspective, right? And then we brought up in the beginning of the show. Then there's the caregiver, right? The caregiver, whatever that team looks like. Maybe it's a spouse, maybe it's children, maybe it's a whole collection of people.
Sure.
And then it's their health, their mental health, their emotional health. Like that's just as important as this, right?
Yes, it is. Yes.
And you think about what is the one thing that people always stress out about? I'll tell you what it is. It's money, right? So what would the ability to kind of alleviate some of that anxiety of like, okay, I understand. I want to be able to do this. I want my father to be able to get into this place, and I wanted to do it quickly. I don't want this to take. I don't want this to drag. So I want to do. Can I make this call, or does my mother have to make this call? And again, all of your estate planning will kind of teed you up for this to be able to do this.
Yeah. Well, you bring up a great point. If you're trying to move into this next phase of this care continuum, you're trying to get your loved one into some type of more structured setting, like, for example, an assisted living facility. Right. The first thing the assisted living facility is going to say is, what did you just tell people? Say people worry about all the time? Money.
Here's how much it costs.
Do you have the money
Here's the bill.
to pay our $5,500 a month bill when you sign on the line that is dotted, right? Yeah. And if your mom or your dad are impaired physically or cognitively and they can't pay the bill, do you have the authority to pay the bill?
Yeah.
Do you know how to use the power of attorney to take money out of their IRA so you can pay for them to be in this safe, secure setting that is going to improve their quality of life because it wasn't working at the house?
And maybe you don't. Maybe you don't know how to do that, or maybe because of just the situation, it's imminent, and we have to get him in there. So guess what? You write a check from your own checkbook. Is that stressful? Hey, by the way, we need like first and last month's rent on this. So you write an $11,000 check.
Yeah.
You write an $11,000 check, and you're like, wow, do I have enough money in my checking? Oh no, I don't. I have to, and then there's that piece.
And then
of it.
I have to take money out of my retirement account to write a $12,000 check to get mom and dad into an assisted living facility when they have $1.6 million in their IRA. Yeah. And can I get at it? And we get that question all the time.
And then
can I get reimbursed?
Right. And I have a brother who's in California who I haven't talked to in a year. And there's so all of this is just.
Oh, by the way, he's got tons of questions, by the way, because they always do.
Now he does.
You could have picked him out of a lineup, but he's really concerned about how mom's Wells Fargo account's doing all of a sudden.
Right. So who's managing it? Right. So now all of this is kind of getting thrown it's all like kerosene getting thrown on this fire.
Yeah.
And it looks like it's a mess.
Yeah.
And so you're trying to navigate all this, and on top of it, your parents they need help, or your parent needs real help.
You don't want to be in a holding pattern at this stage of the game, right? So the goal, the next step in this journey.
But that's where you guys come in. You're like, hey, we'll here, take my hand. We're going to guide you through this.
Yeah, that's right. And that's what we're going to say. What's the plan? What do we want to do? And we tell all of our clients, this person, mom or dad, if that's who we're talking about, their health is going to drive the plan, right? We're just dealing with that. We're not volunteering to do things. We're not doing things because we want to do them. We're not doing things because we don't want to do them. We're doing them because somebody's health is saying, this is what needs to happen, and this is where we're going, right? So the next step is we end up in some type of structured setting. Assisted living with some independence to it. Could be a memory care unit at an assisted living facility, which memory care equals more money because it's more care, it's more covered. Somebody might need to be in a not a locked unit, but like a protected unit because one of the side effects for folks who have cognitive decline is they tend to wander, and you don't want somebody to be unsafe, and so they put them in some type of a more secure part of an assisted living facility so that nobody gets in trouble and gets themselves hurt, and they can keep an eye on everybody. And so again, we're talking about this is the next step in the journey. You talked about how we use the legal tools that we have hopefully already put together to get this done, and if you haven't done it, then we really got to sharpen our pencils and deal with some stuff on the legal front. That's going to involve some trips to probate court and things like that, which we're hoping to avoid. But for purposes of this discussion and in the interest of time, we want to make sure that you see that the next part of this journey is some type of now, by the way, this doesn't have to be forever, right? This could be we want to try to get somebody into an assisted living facility because we want to get them to try it, see if they like it. We're not selling the house yet. We have the resources that we can kind of swing what we would call a respite stay to say, why don't you give it a whirl for 2 months and see how it goes?
Right.
See if you like it, right? Yeah, get there, make some friends, tell some stories. You tell people different, talk to different people who haven't heard your stories before.
God help that assisted living place that gets you.
Imagine thinking both of us at the same time.
I mean, you know what? It's going to...
And that's what the door would say. Money on one side, the law on the other. Wouldn't even be our real names.
We'll be like Felix and us. We'll be roommates,
yeah,
right? Yeah,
that's right.
Because we're going to save money.
That's right.
I'm okay with that. Yeah,
we're so
good.
cheap.
Yeah,
That's right.
So. We know how much. We know how to save for this.
Every day. Hey, did you know I did a radio show? Oh, yeah, we know. You've told us about it before.
We're doing the radio show.
Day. That's right.
Yeah, right.
In real time.
Live.
Real time.
Live and all day. It's going to be a reality TV show.
That's right. So that's the next step in the journey. Some type of assisted living. It's not a nursing home.
It's not a bad retirement thing.
They tend to be private pay. And then if that doesn't work, at some point somebody's care needs get too great because an assisted living arrangement is usually a residential model. It's not a medical model.
Yeah.
So if your care needs get so great, if your health issues become too great, the next step after that journey is a nursing home, right? Yeah. So those are sort of the three, when we get to a nursing home, it's very simple. It's either private pay, get out a $15,000 check from that big IRA that you had, or you're going to start to do some Medicaid planning.
It gets paid for, right?
That's right.
The nursing home is going to get paid for one way or the other. Whether it's by you or whether it's by the state, the nursing home will get paid for. You will get nursing home care.
Yep, and we'll talk about it, and we'll go over that plan with our clients. And what'll usually happen is the facility, the assisted living facility, will say to the family, look, we can't do it anymore. Your loved one, this isn't the right setting for them anymore. We can't provide the care that they need. We can't keep them here. By law, we can't keep them here. They need to transition to a nursing home. We're going to give you some time to find one. Go look around. Talk to your case manager. Talk to your lawyer. Let's talk about how that's going to get paid for. The nursing home is going to want to know all the same things that the assisted living facility wanted to know. Do you have the money? Do you have the resources? Do you have this? Do you have that? That's all going to get built into that conversation at the nursing home. And then it's going to be a case of, are we paying for it with private funds? Are we applying for Medicaid? And what does that look like? Yeah. So again, just to kind of bring this thing to its natural close, the journey for somebody who's looking at that care continuum piece of it is your home as long as you can be home. Some varying degrees of independence, or you have help coming in that's family, or you have help coming in that's not family, that's some type of outside agency to come in and be able to keep you at your home as best we can. The next step, if being at home doesn't work anymore, some type of assisted living arrangement. Again, there's more services there. There's things that can help you be as independent as possible. That's our goal for our clients, keep you in the most independent setting. And at some point, if that doesn't work, the next step on that journey is a nursing home because your health needs have proven that that's a better setting for you. Again, the funding of all this is another show, but that's what we want people to see because when we sit down and talk with somebody, they always ask, why don't I go to a nursing home? We may never get there. Yeah. That's 2 steps away, all right? Yeah, but in the meantime, let's talk about how we think we're going to get you where we're going to get you.
2 bridges to cross.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So we're not there yet, but that's what the journey looks like. Where you stop on that journey, That's out of my hands.
If you become like a really famous, kind of like, highly important person, you may have a security force as well. This is independent of your security force.
Separate and apart. Yeah. Separate and apart from your own personal.
Unless we started a company that did both security and in-home.
We could do that.
I mean, that's
future plans.
I'm coming up with some really good ideas, especially starting with Tom on our four.
Yeah. So let's say it that way. All right.
Tom plus +2.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, that wraps it up for Money in the Law.
Yep.
We'll be see everybody next Saturday in MyFM 101.3 and HCAT. Thank you for joining us. I hope you learned something.
Enjoy the great weekend.
On behalf of Jay Mars, I'm John Droy and Tom Harmon and the great WMRC. We'll see you by next week.
Have a great week, everybody.